Welcome students to this online lecture on parotid gland anatomy. Anatomy of parotid gland is important as in your clinical practice you will come across the diseases of parotid gland like mumps, then calculi, that is a stone of the parotid duct, as well as the tumors of the parotid gland, they are also common. And the annoying anatomy is important as surgically here the parotid gland is traversed by the facial nerve. So while removing these tumors of the parotid gland, care should be taken to preserve the facial nerve. Now these are the competencies of this topic, that at the end of this topic you should be able to describe, demonstrate parts, borders, surfaces, contents, relations and nerve supply of parotid gland with course of its duct and surgical importance of these things. You should also be able to explain anatomical basis of Fraze syndrome. Now parotid gland, now the name itself suggests that the gland is located around the ear, that is paraotid. There are three pairs of large salivary gland, parotid, submandibular and sublingual. Out of these, parotid gland is the largest salivary gland and is predominantly serous type of salivary gland. It weighs around 25 gram and here it is located in this parotid region. Now this parotid bed, it is formed anteriorly, you can see here, by posterior border of ramus of mandible, posteriorly by the mastoid process, superiorly by the external acoustic meatus and posterior part of temporomandibular joint, and medially by the styloid process. Now all these structures they are having the muscles attached to this, that is on the ramus of mandible there is medial pterygoid on medial surface and masseter on the lateral surface. On mastoid process there is insertion of sternocleidomastoid, as well as behind in the digastric notch there is origin of posterior belly of digastric. On the styloid process there is attachment to muscles. So this parotid bed here you can see is formed by these structures and the muscles attached to these structures. Parotid lies below external acoustic meatus between mandible and sternocleidomastoid, and this gland projects forward over the masseter muscle. Accessory parotid gland is found in around 20% of individual, and it is between zygomatic arch here and the parotid duct. So here there will be location of accessory parotid gland if present. External features of parotid gland. The size of shape of this parotid gland is variable as it is molded according to surrounding structure. However, usually the shape is inverted three-sided pyramidal shape. So it is having four surfaces. This is the superior surface or base, this one. Then there is anteromedial surface, posteromedial surface, and this one is superficial surface. There are three borders: anterior border to which this Stenson's duct or parotid duct is attached here, then posterior border, and then medial border or pharyngeal border. As it is inverted pyramidal shape, this is the base, which is we say the superior surface, and the apex is directed downward. However, the apex is blunt. Now coming to relations of parotid gland. Now here relations of apex. Now apex of the parotid gland is blunt, and here in this figure you can see it is related with the cervical branch of facial nerve and two divisions of retromandibular vein. They emerge near the apex. Apex overlaps posterior belly of digastric and carotid triangle to variable extent. Now relations of the base of parotid. Here now we know that superior surface is also known as base of the parotid gland. So this is related with the, you can see here, a cartilaginous part of external acoustic meatus, Then here you can see temporomandibular joint. So posterior surface of temporomandibular joint and superficial temporal artery and vein, as well as auriculotemporal nerve. So these are the structures in relation with the base of parotid gland. Superficial surface is covered with the skin. Now here in this figure you can see the transverse section is taken. Anteriorly there is this bone, that is the mandible, posteriorly mastoid process. This is the superficial surface. Here you can see, while the gland is also passing deep to this, between these two bones, mandible and mastoid process, and even it's reaching on the medial aspect near the pharynx. So now here we can see this part is the superficial surface. Superficial surface is covered by skin, superficial fascia, parotid fascia and few deep parotid lymph node. Superficial fascia, over this region it contains branches of great auricular nerve, superficial parotid lymph node and a subcutaneous muscle, that is the platysma. Now extent of this superficial surface is upward, it extends till zygomatic arch. Then posteriorly you can see the superficial surface is covering this sternocleidomastoid. Apex is reaching the posterior inferior angle here, and masseter, it's anteriorly reaching toward this masseter, which will be here. So these are the relations of superficial surface of the parotid gland. Now coming to the anteromedial surface. Now this is superficial surface, while this surface, this is the anteromedial surface between this anterior border and medial border. You can see this anteromedial surface is grooved by this posterior border of ramus of mandible. As a result, the gland is divided into superficial part and a deep part, which are connected by the isthmus. This anteromedial surface is related with this muscle, that is the masseter, then lateral surface of temporomandibular joint, then posterior border of ramus of mandible and medial pterygoid muscle, as well as branches of facial nerve. So these are the relations of this anteromedial surface. These two muscles, then this bone, mandible and a TM joint lateral surface, as well as this facial nerve. Now coming to posteromedial surface, you can see this is posterior border and this is now, this one is medial border. So this complete surface is the posteromedial surface and is molded to the mastoid and styloid process and structures attached to them. Now this posteromedial surface is grooved by the external carotid artery. Styloid process separates this posteromedial surface from these two structure, that is the internal jugular vein and internal carotid artery. Now relations of this surface is that posteriorly you can see mastoid process along with the two muscles attached over here, that is the sternocleidomastoid insertion and posterior belly of digastric muscle origin. So these are on posterior aspect. Styloid process with muscles attached to it here. So here the styloid process along with the three muscles attached to it, they are also related with this posteromedial surface, and external carotid artery and facial nerve enter the gland through this surface. You can see here external carotid artery here and the facial nerve, they are entering from this posteromedial surface. Now the clinical anatomy of deep lobe of parotid gland and its relation. Now here in this previous figure you have seen that because of this ramus of mandible which is grooving this anteromedial surface, the gland is divided into two parts, this superficial lobe and the deep lobe, and the connecting part, this is the isthmus which is connecting the superficial and deep part of the parotid gland. Now this deep lobe of parotid gland, when the tumor occurs in this side, Then deep lobe extend behind mandibular ramus, and here its deep surface lies immediately lateral to superior constrictor muscle of pharynx. In this case, the mass presents in the lateral wall of pharynx and not as a swelling over the face. So this we have to remember, that in case of the tumor taking place in the deep lobe, the swelling will not be over the face, but it will be compressing, or it's producing lesion from the medial side and compressing this pharynx, or you can say it's protruding from the medial side. So in this case, we have to examine the oropharynx of the patient. Now coming to the borders of parotid gland. Now the parotid gland has anterior border, posterior border, and this medial border or medial edge. Anterior border separates the superficial surface from anteromedial surface. This we have seen. This is the superficial surface and this is the anteromedial surface, and a border separating to this is anterior border. Parotid duct, most of the terminal branches of facial nerve and transverse facial artery, they emerge from this anterior border. Posterior border, it separates superficial surface from posteromedial surface and it overlaps this sternocleidomastoid muscle. While medial edge or pharyngeal border separates anteromedial surface from posteromedial surface and is related to lateral wall of pharynx here. Now the capsule of parotid gland. Now here the investing layer of deep cervical fascia, it forms capsule of the gland. It is supplied by great auricular nerve. A portion of deep lamina extending between styloid process and mandible is thickened to form stylomandibular ligament, which separates parotid gland from the submandibular salivary gland. The ligament is pierced by external carotid artery. So here you can see, this is lateral side zygomatic arch, this is the external acoustic meatus, here is styloid process. So now this fascia splits, investing the layer of deep cervical fascia splits into two layers, superficial lamina and deep lamina, and they are attached to this bony structure, and in between here there is the parotid gland. So this is forming the capsule of this parotid gland. Now importance of this capsule is that this capsule is unyielding and it is supplied by the great auricular nerve. So in case of the CL adenitis, which may be because of the viral mumps, parotid along with other salivary gland, they are infected by the mumps virus and it causes acute CL adenitis. And as a parotid capsule is unyielding, that is, it cannot expand too much, any inflammation and tension inside the gland causes severe pain. This is because of the stimulation of the great auricular nerve, which carries the pain sensation, and it is root value C2, C3. Pain exaggerates during meal time as the gland secretions are increased inside this gland and resulting in further turgor in the capsule. The pain, however, it will be reduced after the meal is finished. So the pain which is exquisite pain during the eating, it is because of the unyielding nature of the parotid capsule in case of the diseases of parotid gland like mumps. Now the structures emerging at periphery of parotid gland. Here you can see the branches of facial nerve, they are exiting from the anterior margin or anterior border of the parotid. These are now toward the temporal region, temporal branch, towards zygomatic region, zygomatic branch, upper buccal branch, lower buccal branch, marginal mandibular branch, and cervical branch. So these are the branches of the facial nerve exiting from the anterior border of this parotid gland. Also you can see the parotid duct, also known as Stenson's duct. Then transverse facial artery, it also exits from here. Superior surface or base, here you can see exit of the auriculotemporal nerve, then superficial temporal artery and vein. From the posterior side, posterior auricular vessel and the nerves. They are emerging from this gland. While inferior or base of this gland, inferiorly apex of the gland, here you can see anterior and posterior division of retromandibular vein. They are emerging from it. Now structures within the parotid gland, these are inside the substance of this parotid gland, and from medial to lateral you can see external carotid artery, then retromandibular vein, then facial nerve, then the parotid lymph nodes. Now we will see one by one these structures. Here the retromandibular vein, it is inside the substance of this parotid gland, and it is formed by superficial temporal vein and transverse facial vein. Then again it gets a tributary, that is the maxillary vein. This retromandibular vein is formed, and at the lower end it divides into two divisions, anterior division and posterior division. Anterior division will unite with the facial vein to form common facial vein, while posterior division of retromandibular vein unite with posterior auricular vein to form external jugular vein. Next structure inside this parotid gland is the facial nerve. Now we know facial nerve enter from the internal acoustic meatus, which is inside the cranial cavity. From that internal acoustic meatus, it travels the petrous part of temporal bone. From here it exits from the stylomastoid foramen, which is between the mastoid process and the styloid process. From stylomastoid foramen it exits the cranial cavity, and then it enter into the substance of the parotid gland. It branches here into two trunks, temporofacial trunk and cervicofacial trunk. Temporofacial trunk give two branches, temporal branch and zygomatic branch of facial nerve, while cervicofacial nerve branches into upper buccal, lower buccal branch, marginal mandibular branch and cervical branch. Though the parotid gland is branching here, ramifying here from the parotid gland, but it will not supply the parotid gland. Now structure inside the parotid gland, that is the medialmost structure, is the external carotid artery. This external carotid artery, we have seen that it enters from the posteromedial surface of this gland, and here it gives branches, that is posterior auricular artery, posteriorly then maxillary artery, then transverse facial artery and superficial temporal artery. The superficial temporal artery, here it is a terminal branch of it. Now coming to the Stenson's duct, that is the parotid duct. Now this parotid duct is a thick walled and is about 5 cm long. Here you can see from anterior border it's emerging. It emerges from the middle of anterior border of the gland. It runs forward and slightly downward on the masseter muscle. At the anterior border of masseter, here you can see from this anterior border the duct is emerging. At the anterior border of masseter, it turns at right angle and pierces first the buccal pad of fat, then this buccopharyngeal fascia, then it also pierces buccinator muscle. So this is first bend. The second bend, after this piercing this buccinator muscle, it will run between the buccinator and oral mucosa. So it turns again, and the third time it turns while opening in the vestibule of mouth opposite the crown of upper second molar tooth. Because of this tortuous course, or you can say its turning is direction, this submucosal passage of duct serve as a valvular mechanism and preventing inflation of gland during raised intraoral pressure. Now clinical anatomy of capsule of parotid and its nerve supply, that Acute CL adenitis is the acute inflammation of parotid gland. It causes pain as a result of stretching of parotid capsule, which is derived from investing layer of deep cervical fascia. This we have seen. And stimulation of great auricular nerve. It causes of this CL adenitis includes parotid duct obstruction, which may be due to calculus, that is stone or mucus plug, or the duct stricture. Mump is also the cause of acute CL adenitis. Coming to the blood supply and lymphatic drainage of the parotid gland. It is supplied by external carotid artery and its branches. Now we know this external carotid artery is inside the substance of the parotid gland. So its branches, they are supplying this gland. Venous drainage is to external jugular vein via local tributaries. Lymphatic drainage and parotid lymph nodes, there are usually 10 lymph nodes present inside the gland. Majority are there in the superficial part of the parotid gland. Lymph from parotid drain into upper deep cervical lymph node. The other lymph which are draining into the parotid lymph node, these are from the temple. Lymph will come here, side of scalp, lateral surface of auricle, external acoustic meatus, middle ear, parotid gland itself, upper part of cheek and part of eyelid and orbit. Now coming to the nerve supply. Now here the interesting thing about the parotid gland is that though the facial nerve, it is passing through the gland, but it is not supplying the parotid gland. Nerve supply of the parotid is of three types. One is parasympathetic or secretomotor, then sympathetic and sensory. Parasympathetic nerve supply, it is from inferior salivary nucleus, which is in the medulla oblongata. Then it is having the preganglionic and postganglionic fibers. And stimulation of parasympathetic nerve, it results into the watery secretion or serous secretion of the saliva from the gland. Sympathetic supply is from the sympathetic plexus around external carotid artery, while sensory supply is by auriculotemporal nerve and great auricular nerve. Now just have a look on parasympathetic pathway of the parotid gland. Now here from the medulla oblongata, there is inferior salivary nucleus. Now here the nucleus meaning it's the aggregation of nerve cell bodies inside the medulla oblongata. So from the inferior salivary nucleus, the fibers which are preganglionic, they will emerge. They will be passing from 9th cranial nerve, which is the glossopharyngeal nerve. From there, tympanic branch, that is the Jacobson's nerve, will be there. Then there is lesser petrosal nerve, and this lesser petrosal nerve, it will relay in otic ganglion. Now here the relay means these fibers, they will form a synapse with the nerve cell bodies which are present in the otic ganglion. The ganglion meaning that it's a collection of nerve cell bodies outside central nervous system. So the preganglionic fiber will relay here, and the postganglionic fiber will start from this otic ganglion, and it will travel along with the auriculotemporal nerve and will supply the parotid gland. Stimulation of this pathway, it results into watery secretion, that is a serous secretion of the saliva. Now coming to the Patet's fasciovenous plane. Parotid gland has superficial and deep part which are connected by this isthmus. Branches of facial nerve passes forward through this isthmus. You can see this between this superficial lobe and deep lobe, this facial nerve is entering, it's branching over here, and then again it ramifies. So plane between superficial and deep lobes of parotid gland, in which branches of facial and retromandibular vein lie, has been designated by Patet as fasciovenous plane. This plane is helpful in surgeries to remove parotid tumor without damaging facial nerve. Now next clinical anatomy is gustatory sweating or Fraze syndrome or auriculotemporal nerve syndrome. Now this syndrome takes place few days after parotid surgery or trauma of the parotid region. In this, the patient comes with the complaint of that while eating there is warmness, redness and pain in skin over cheek, and there is cutaneous hyperesthesia in front of ear while shaving. Now, why these symptoms presents in the post-operatively in this patient? Anatomical basis of Fraze syndrome, that is gustatory sweating, is that following parotid surgery or trauma resulting to opening of the parotid capsule, there is injury of auriculotemporal nerve. Now you know that auriculotemporal nerve is a sensory nerve. We have seen it. While injury of auriculotemporal nerve, it is carrying sympathetic, parasympathetic and sensory nerve supply to gland. While great auricular nerve, it is carrying sensory and pseudomotor fibers from the skin. So auriculotemporal nerve is supplying the gland, while great auricular nerve is supplying the skin and the capsule. So what happens after injury of this capsule during surgery? There is connection between these two nerves, that is secretomotor fibers from the gland grows in the endoneural sheath of cutaneous fiber supplying sweat gland and blood vessel. As a result, stimulus like the sight of food which causes salivation. So during salivation, it evokes the cutaneous hyperesthesia and sweating and flushing. So the skin over this region, the nerve fibers to this, they are stimulated and there causes the sweating, flushing and hyperesthesia of the skin over this parotid region. Now coming to the clinical anatomy, parotid abscess may be caused by spread of infection from opening of parotid duct in the mouth cavity. The parotid abscess is drained by a method that is known as Hilton's method. In this, the horizontal incision is made and many small holes are taken below the angle of mandible. During surgical removal of parotid gland or parotidectomy, facial nerve is preserved by removing the gland in two parts, superficial and deep separately, and plane of cleavage is defined by tracing the nerve from behind forward. Parotid calculi may get formed within the parotid gland or in its Stenson's duct. So these are the specific learning objectives which we have just now have discussed this. That is, you should be able to describe parotid gland under external feature, relation, nerve supply, clinical anatomy. We have seen the structures emerging at the periphery of parotid gland, then structures present inside the parotid gland, then the structures pierced by the parotid duct. Now you know the anatomical basis, that why parotid swellings are very painful because of its unyielding capsule. Then mumps and Fraze syndrome, that is gustatory sweating. Then you should be able to write short note on parotid bed, parotid duct and Pate's faciovenous plane. So this is about this topic. Thank you.